All right, I wanted to go over a few animation tips that I use, I guess, when making some of these animations. Um, they might be things a little bit different with how normal rigs are set up, or maybe they're the same. I want to preface all of my animation stuff with I am not a professional animator, so there's probably a lot of things I'm doing wrong, but this is kind of how I do them. So if you looked at the other videos, I kind of already went over how to grab all of the animation source files. So I'm kind of just in the kaiju one, uh, and we'll just kind of analyze this hit one a little bit, just to kind of look at the rig and go over stuff. Uh, I guess one thing I wanted to bring up is a lot of rigs, like some of these rigging tools, they have tons and tons of controls you can access from this end menu. I'm gonna turn the screencast things on really quick. Here we go. Um, and I don't really have, I don't remember where you find that at, uh, but this thing doesn't have all of those buttons with changing IK to FK and turning on and off features. I tried using that for a little bit and it was way too much for me. So the way I made this rig, it doesn't have any of that stuff. So you don't really have to, my workflow is you don't really have to deal with that at all. Um, the kind of the main thing with these rigs that took me a little while to get used to, number two, is the kind of the way the skeletons built. So when you first start rigging, everything is kind of just it is as it is, which in this instance, the technical word that people use is called deform bones. So that's kind of just a standard rig where it's kind of what you think. You got the spine, you got the head bone, and they have everything named. But as soon as you want to start doing like some of the fancier stuff with it, you have to do, uh, I don't know, all the tutorials I've read, you kind of have to start doing some other things uh, to it. So instead of the way all of the rigs in Mesh2Motion are done with Blender is there's kind of mostly two layers for everything. There's the deform bones, which are kind of the final bones that we'll use. Uh, and then there's something else called driver bones, which driver bones are effectively just, they just point to one of the regular bones and they just kind of control changing it. And uh, So in all the rigs, I turn off the deform bones. When we export, we're just going to export these out. But when we're actually animating, we really just animate the driver bones. So if you look at, I'm going to hit A to select all the animation stuff. You're going to see all of the stuff that's actually animated have these DRV, which just stands for driver. And then there's this other thing called a control, which I mean it's kind of like a driver too. Uh, it just more or less kind of controls, drives the main deform bone rig with everything. Uh, so that's another thing I wanted to go over. When you're in these animation files, since really it's just dealing with animation, you want to make sure that you're only in pose mode. You really don't need to be in object mode or edit mode. Uh, it looks like you can't even get in edit mode with this. And that's just because that these rigs are actually these animation files are referencing another uh, the actual like base rig for this. Um, so I guess you can't change it that way by default, and that kind of allows if I want to update the 3D mesh or if I want to change some bone names, it can it can update pretty much all of these uh, automatically, more or less. So yeah, just when you're working, just stay in pose mode, and if something's not editing right or acting weird, just something to check with it. Um, So when it comes to animation, one thing to keep in mind is anything that has these blocks are kind of like some type of IK constraint or IK control. So if I'm updating the feet or moving the feet around, I usually start with the squares, and that kind of keeps it on there. Uh, you'll notice the knees are kind of acting funky when it gets back further, and that has to do with the this other uh, kind of cube control, and that just controls where the knees are pointing towards. So if you're spinning around and doing a lot of stuff or kicking, you usually kind of have to have a combination of doing this, and if say if it's out a little bit, and then you have to select this guy, and then maybe you might have to correct that with kind of the knee direction, or I think the technical name they call it a pull with it. But yeah, that's kind of a good way to start is you can move stuff with the squares. Some of the bones, when you're animating, or if you try to animate them, they're going to have problems. Like anything that's part of this chain here, so it's kind of like the upper leg and then kind of the knee and then the shin area. If you try to, you can't, if you try to move these themselves, they're going to act really weird uh, with it. So I generally, even though I have them there, I mean, I probably could hide them uh, for the rig, and I might have done that for the human one. But yeah, you can pretty much ignore trying to animate these guys. And then really for the whole upper leg, you could just yeah, animate this, and then again the knee thing for it. Uh, and that kind of also goes for the arms, because the arms are pretty much done the same way the legs are done. So you kind of have the base way to move the arm around type of thing, and then if you want to change kind of where the elbows are pointing, they have their own little cube uh, things to kind of change that direction a little bit. Um, the other thing that I want to bring up is that has to do with uh, like chains of things. If you want to like make a smooth transition, like I'll just reset this guy so that this guy doesn't have a lot of fingers, but whenever you do rotations, there's kind of two ways you can rotate based off the pivot point. So if you can have this way here, which you can see is kind of rotating right along this base here, like that. But like for a human and kind of this one, if you have four or five of them and you just want to like curl the fingers, I don't have a special control for that. And what I usually just do is I usually just kind of get in an angle where I can select everything. And then I change if I can move this guy, the pivot point. I'm going to have to move this down a second to this individual origins. So what that does is you'll see, you can kind of see that there's actually two bones rotating with this. So they kind of both rotate relative to wherever their parent's at. So that's generally how I do anything finger related. So if I have it crunched in and I just want to reset it, I'll usually just do Alt R if it gets in a weird spot. And then the same thing that really with even with the tail, I do that. I'll just select a bunch of them. If I want to make it go maybe up and down, I just make sure that it's on the individual origins and then see how it kind of does that. And then if I want to make it go side to side, I'll just uh, get up on top, and then you can kind of make it do that. Uh, so that's kind of how I do it. Uh, and then maybe finally, just like a small minor thing, just basic kind of animation stuff is uh, just get rid of all these really quick. Oops. Just as I'm animating, what I usually do is I generally just kind of do the normal pose to pose. So I'll usually pick go to the very first frame that I'm animating, and then I'll maybe what I'll do is I'll maybe just get a decent base pose like this, whatever whatever I choose. Um, and then notice how whenever I'm moving stuff, I don't actually there's no like insert keyframe with everything. It's the way all of these animations are kind of set up is they have this auto keying set up. So as soon as you're on a keyframe and you're moving stuff, it kind of saves the position of it. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're wanting just to play around with stuff and not affect it, you can just turn this off. But most of the time when you're animating, it's just easier to turn it on when you're moving a bunch of stuff around. But yeah, once I get kind of a base pose, what I do is I kind of want to just lock everything in. So I'll just select everything and then press the I key, which is just kind of like an insert. So you'll kind of see it just creates a keyframe with everything. So the nice thing with that is if I would say if I go over and then I move something around, uh, maybe I don't want to do it. I don't want to make it symmetrical. I'll just do that. Maybe say something like that, so you can kind of see it. Uh, and even though I only have these, I only selectively have these frames keyframed in. Uh, Eventually, you're going to want to, if you want a nice looping animation, you pretty much want the first frame to match up with the last frame. So you kind of do the, so yeah, doing this, it's kind of easy to be able just to select this. You kind of duplicate them with Shift E, and you can kind of bring them over with that. And then when you hit the space bar to play it, it kind of loops a little bit. And then yeah, there's a ton of tricks. I don't know. There's really a lot of stuff with animating. It's animating's a really deep subject. So I had one idea of making maybe more like a long form video of actually just making animations, even if it's like an hour and a half long, with kind of how it works and kind of the process I'm using. So if somebody's kind of interested in that with what I'm doing, just let me know in the comments, and then I could maybe do something like that, or maybe even do like little live sessions, and then if people have questions, I could do it with that. So, all right, yep, that's pretty much all I had for this video.